In the PTE core exam, for the writing section, you need to have the skill of skimming and scanning a text. How quickly can you understand the context of this text? Now, if you got that in just a few seconds, then good. The writing section will not be very difficult for you. But in order to get a 90 out of 90 for this PTE core exam, we need to have these essential skills. Now, today I'm going to look at ways that we can use time management as an asset for the writing section. In addition to that, we're also going to look at a template that you can use for summarize a written text, so that when you jump into the exam, you don't have to think very much about what should I write, because you'll already have a formula. And that formula is actually very simple. It follows the 3 W's of what, where, and why. So before we actually break down that formula, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Scott from HSET Education. Every week we upload content to help you to pass the PTE core exam. So whether you're really struggling on the writing, reading, speaking, or listening, take a look at our channel so that we can give you some advice on how to use templates loosely, how to speed up your time, or other tricky areas that you might not know about for the PTE core exam. Because in 2025, there was a lot of changes that had been made to the PTE core exam, and we just need to make sure that we know these changes in order to get a 90 out of 90 for the PTE exam. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at summarize a written text. So for this section of the exam, you are going to be presented with a short passage. It is only up to 300 words, so it's not very long. But you have only 10 minutes to do two things. First, you need to understand the passage. Read it, understand it, and we don't want to waste time there. The second thing we need to do is write a short summary in 25 to 50 words that summarizes the main idea in this text. Quick tip, it says 25 to 50 words, but all students who get a 90 out of 90 for this section, they are writing between 40 and 50 words. So we can understand that in order to get a high score for summarize a written text, we need to be writing at least 40 words. Now, that's not just a random number. It takes at least 1 to 2 sentences in order to write a full summary. Let's take, for example, if you're only writing one sentence for a passage like this. It is going to be incredibly difficult to boil all of that information down into one short sentence. So what we usually aim for is 2 sentences maximum. You're not going to squeeze in 3 sentences. Now, why not 3 sentences? Well, they will be 3 simple sentences, and it won't demonstrate that you have a strong understanding of grammar or sentence grammatical syntax. So what we're going to do is have 2 strong sentences. And in fact, we'll use something called the coordinating conjunction in between these sentences or even in them. This is also called fanboys, which you might be familiar with because we practice it a lot in English. Words like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. And by using these words and other connecting or transitional words, it demonstrates a strong understanding of English, but it really helps us to summarize the written text. That's the goal. Because in English, we always use connecting words to build on large subjects. Now, in order to use our time effectively, we really need to make use of skimming and scanning the text in order to get a good understanding. In the very first 15 seconds of your 10-minute window, you're going to start skimming the text quickly. Skimming is when you quickly read the first and last sentence to get a very brief understanding of the text. That way you know what you should be writing about. The next thing you're going to do is start scanning the text for key pieces of information or phrases, looking for words that highlight the relationship between ideas. Generally, in the PTE core exam, these are going to be quite advanced concepts, perhaps concepts that are relevant to today's world, like AI or gig economy or something that is talked about recently, but not always. So what we need to do is connect these ideas together. These techniques help you to swiftly understand the message, and then you can start working on your 40 to 50 word summary. Now, what exactly does scanning look like? Well, on average, if you're reading at a 500 words per minute speed, it's going to look like something like this. Oh my God. Okay, so you understand that you're not grasping everything in the text, but I have a pretty good understanding that that was about the gig economy and the flexibility and something about work and how it benefits people and labor unions or something else. That is scanning the text. Very brief. All right, so now that we've wasted probably about 2 minutes of our 10 minutes allotted time, we really need to start working on the actual sentence, the summary. Now, this is a formula that we've used for all of our students, and it helps because it's simple and sweet, but you'll never miss the key pieces of information. For it, we're going to use the who, what, and why. So as you are reading the passage, you need to identify who is the main subject. Sometimes this will be a person, for example, like a person's name, and they might state their name, a professor, or the subject might be something like a concept or an idea or AI or a new product. So identify the subject, then identify what is happening to this subject. What is the main point or the main purpose of the whole passage? We're going to try to summarize that in a very short, brief message. So it'll often sound like the subject is doing something, or the subject has been integrated into. That would be a bit more advanced. And then the last thing we need to do in our second sentence is going to be the why. Why does all of this matter? What are the implications or the consequence? In the PTE writing section, often you'll have 2 paragraphs, and typically it'll be 1 sentence for paragraph 1, 1 sentence for paragraph 2. So that'll look like the subject is doing something because. And this is where we use a lot of our transitional words like while, although, highlighting that, therefore. To put it into context, let's take a look at this passage. Very quickly, I already know that fast fashion is the who, that is the subject. Fast fashion is doing something about trendy clothes, increased consumer demands, frequent purchasing, cheap labor. So it is increasing consumption. Consumption is going up. Fast fashion is making consumption going up, and this is not a good thing. So this is the who, this is the what in this paragraph. That'll be sentence number 1. And then I need to figure out why. Why is any of this important? Why is fast fashion a problem? Well, okay, I see environmentalist, water pollution, fabric waste. Awareness is growing and consumers are turning to a sustainable alternative, blah, 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 blah. This will be the why. Why is it important? There we go. So my summary might look something like this. Fast fashion encourages overconsumption and exploits cheap labor, which leads to environmental damage and poor working conditions. However, that's my transitional word. However, there is a shift towards sustainable alternatives like slow fashion through a large-scale chain remains unlimited. Change remains unlimited. So it boils it really down to the subject, the who. What is the subject doing? The subject is exploiting cheap labor. It's causing environmental damage. And the why is, why is this a problem? Well, there's a shift towards slow fashion. So simply by knowing the who, what, why, I'm able to quickly jump into 2 sentences that'll really help to summarize this written text. Now, our main purpose here is to help our students really save them time during the exam. If you're able to efficiently jump into a question like summarize a written text or describe an image and not have to think about the sentences that you want to create, then it'll save you time so you can really focus on what does the passage mean and what big transitional words or academic words can I use to really get that 90 out of 90 score that I need or I want. So if you found the information in this video helpful, or if you want to keep watching more about the PTE core exam, then do go ahead, like and subscribe down below so that we can keep posting every week. And as always, if you have questions related to the exam, specific questions, comment them below so that we can answer you directly and we'll feature it in the next video. Thanks, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.